Hello there, and welcome to the Introduction to SPSS workshop brought to you by the Graduate Statistics Studio here at Fresno State. Today we're going to be talking about SPSS. It's a very popular program, especially if you're a Fresno State student, but many people don't use the program. Here we see is the display. We have columns, we have rows, and we have cells, just like we do in Excel. The difference, though, is that the variables which would normally be A, B, C, D, and so on, are just called VAR at the moment. But when we give variables specific names, then we will see the specific name of that variable, which we'll see in just a moment. Right now, we're currently on Data View. Data View is where all of the data is. This is where all of the raw values will be stored. The other tab is Variable View. When we click on Variable View, we're given a number of options here, but this is the location of your defined variables. Here we have name, which is the name of the variable that you're using. Keep in mind that SPSS does not like spaces or numbers. Type is the type of variable that it is. You have a text variable or a numeric variable. There are other options in there too, but for the most part, you will stick with text, which is known as string, or numeric, which is just known as numeric. How many decimals will that value be? A specific label. So here's where you can give the actual name with spaces or a detailed description of what the variable is. Values are where you will code the data. For example, if you have a yes/no question on a survey, 1 would equal yes, 0 would equal no. Here you would put that in there. And the last one over here that is most important is measure. There are three types. There will be scale, ordinal, and nominal. Time to create a new variable. Let's start with a variable group. So when we type in group under name, once we press enter, it automatically fills in all of the other categories. It wants to know what measure it is. That's unknown. Well, if we're using group, more than likely it'll be a nominal variable. The reason it'll be a nominal variable is because nominal is a grouping variable. Now we want to give it specific categories. So we have values. A value of 1, we'll call that group A. Value of 2, we'll call that group B. And a value of 3, we'll call group C. We need to make sure that we add each one in before we press OK. If you press OK before, it won't save anything. So now that we have that, we can go to Data View, and our group variable shows up under Data View. And we can enter data in at any time. I've entered data in, and what we see here is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If we want to be more specific, we wanted a 1, not 1.00. So we can go back over to variable view, change the decimal count to 0. When we go back to data view, now they're whole numbers. There's no decimal attached. There's a button over here. When we hover over it, it says value labels. When I click on it, it shows what each value represents. So a 1, 2, 3 is actually group A, group B, group C. And this will work for all of your variables. It's also a great way to identify if any numbers are there that shouldn't be there. I'll type a 4 right here. When I click on value labels, the 4 will remain a 4 because we haven't given 4 an actual name. Variables can also be created on the data view selection as well. All we have to do is start entering values. We also have to change this one back. But notice that it calls it var 00001. That's just telling us this is the first variable that we've created. We have to go into variable view in order to adjust it. Call it score. The measure will be a scale. Once we're back over at data view, we can see different groups and different scores. Each row is an observation, just like it would be in Excel. Each column is still a variable. This is the variable group. This is the variable score. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the data a little bit more so that we have more than 7 cases. Now that I have some data, I want to calculate some descriptive statistics on the score. Under Analyze, there are a number of different statistical analyses. So you'll have to be careful. And depending on the version of SPSS you have, whether it's the full edition or the light edition, you will have less than this amount or around this amount. So descriptive statistics is right here, up towards the top. If we click on descriptives, it asks us what variable do we want to use? Well, we want to use score. Under options, we have mean, sum, standard deviation, variance range, minimum, maximum, standard error of the mean, kurtosis, and skewness. So I'll click on range, kurtosis, and skewness. Everything else is fine. Continue. And when I press OK, another sheet is brought into view. This is the output sheet. The output sheet gives us the analysis that we just requested. Here we have descriptive statistics, our score, our N, 22. That's how many cases there were. The range was 27. The minimum was 3. The maximum was 30. The mean of this particular group was 17. Standard deviation was 6.7. The skewness, which tells you how is the data skewed? Is it positively skewed or negatively skewed? Which gives you a good idea of where the outliers are. If it's positively skewed, you have an outlier in the right side of the data. And if you have a negatively skewed distribution, you have an outlier in the negative section. Think of the outliers pulling the tail into the positive or negative section. And kurtosis tells you how peaked the distribution is. The more flat kurtosis is, or the more flat a distribution is, the more variable it is. The more normal it is, well, the more normal. And the more peaked it is, the less variance in it. While we're here, we can see up here, it tells us descriptive variables equals score, slash statistics equals mean, STDEVE, range, min, max, kurtosis, skewness. This is called SPSS syntax. So SPSS is very useful for a lot of people because it's a point and click system where you click on Analyze or anything and you just click somewhere else and you get a box and you just keep pointing and clicking. However, behind the scenes is this right here. You could learn this language and you can type it into the output and it'll run your data for you, but it's not necessary to know. Many people get by using SPSS's basic system just fine. Analyses can still be done on this screen. If you click on Analyze, all of your options are still here. But if you want to go back to the data, you can click this star, and it brings you right back to where the data is. Another useful tool in SPSS is the ability to transform data into other variables. Click on Transform, recode into different variables. I want to bring over group, and I want to create group 2. Change the label. We want to give it new values. So the value of 1, I want this to still be 1, so I can either change it to 1 or I can click copy old values. When I add it, it keeps that value. I want a 2 to still be the same. But I want the 3 to now be a 2. When I continue, it brings me back to the screen, and it tells me group is going to be transformed into group 2. When I press OK, it brings me back to that output. I'll go back to the data. So here again, that syntax. 1 is equal copy, 2 is equal copy, 3 it goes into 2. So now we have another set of variables where all of the 1s are still 1s, all of the 2s are still 2s, but if we look at the 3, it was transformed into a 2. The other useful function is under data. If we go all the way down to split file, we get this text box here, and it allows us to compare groups. What this means is that if I wanted to run an analysis, but I wanted to do it separately, depending on what group someone is in or something is in, I could put the split file option on. I have group 2. When I press OK, it tells me split file layered by group. When I go back to this screen, if I go all the way down here, it says split by group 2. So if I run an analysis again, what will happen is that it will run descriptive statistics on score for those in group 1 on group 2 and for those in group 2 on group 2. When I press OK, here are the descriptive statistics. But notice now it says group 2, 1, 2. So it gave me the mean standard deviation, skewness, kurtosis, range, the n value for each group. So under group 1, there were 7 observations. Under group 2, there were 15 observations. The mean under group 1 is 15, and the mean under group 2 is 18. Finally, I'll show you how to import data from Excel. I find it's much easier to clean data in Excel and then import it into SPSS for the analysis portion. When you click on File, you want to go to Import Data and select Excel. You'll have to find where your data is. I located mine under Desktop under SPSS Workshop folder. We have Sample Data Set. I'll open that up. And it wants to know which worksheet do I want to grab from. So the one that I grabbed has 2. And you can find this data set on the GSS website. We have the data dictionary and we have raw data. We want to grab raw data, read variable names from first row of data. So this is why it's very important to always keep your data set tabular. So that way when you're importing it into other programs, it makes it very easy. We want this one checked, and we want to ignore hidden rows and columns. If you have a very, very messy data set, you can check these, remove leading spaces from strings, and remove trailing spaces from strings. So that means if there are any words in there, any spaces that are before the words or after the words would be removed. Here's a preview. So we have ID, the sex of the participant, their age, their admit date, their graduation date, the number of units, are they first generation, their major, their minor, do they live on campus, do they receive financial aid, and are they a resident of the state? I'll click OK. And a second data set opens up, which contains all of the information from that Excel workbook. And this concludes the Introduction to SPSS workshop. Thank you.